Everybody, nice to meet you. My name's Ken Lee, and I'm excited to be your moderator on this topic of storage and compute. I guess in terms of this session, it's 45 minutes total. We can plan to just do a structured set of questions for 30 minutes and then leave 15 minutes for Q&A. But I guess in terms of order, we can default to starting sort of far away, further down. And just to kick things off, maybe every single member of the panel can briefly introduce yourself, your project, and maybe 30 seconds each for that.
Sure. Can you hear me? Yeah. So this is Marvin from Phala network, and we build verifiable computation protocol. So we can offer coprocessors to smart contributors, to unlimited with specific features like access data, computing option, and generated proof on-chain. So that's what we do. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Testing. There we go. So I'm Josh, founder and CEO of Irys. So founder and CEO of Irys. So the way we describe ourselves is as a provenance layer. I'll probably jump into this more, but our core thesis is around using blockchains as a way to kind of track provenance of data. More practically, we're mostly a scaling solution for Arweave. Arweave is a permanent storage protocol, and we essentially work to scale the number of transactions and data volume that the network can do.
Yeah, I'm Danny. I'm a protocol engineer at 3Box Labs who is responsible for building the Ceramic Network, which is a decentralized, verifiable data network. Thanks. Yeah, so meant to allow you to do decentralized storage and provides a way to do a composable data network, allowing data to be shared across different environments, applications, and everyone to participate in reuse.
Awesome. Happy to see everyone. Thanks for coming. My name is Logan. I'm a software development lead for Lilypad.tech. We are a decentralized compute network leveraging optimistic reproducibility to compute jobs in a serverless fashion. Thank you.
Awesome. I think we can just dive right into the topic today, which is AI agents. What is one thing that you want everybody in the audience to take away in terms of the way either you or your project works with AI agents?
From me again. Okay. So one key metrics, I think based on some research, 75% of the usage of AI is through AI agents instead of direct requesting from APIs. So I think for retails, people use agent instead of other platform, and instead of trying to think about how to decentralize LLM or machine learning, we think working to practical solutions for Web3 and AI agent is kind of practical in this year. So yeah, I think this is the major take, and we are working on it.
Yeah, I'm in the school of thought that a majority of transactions are likely to come from AI agents. I think it makes a lot of sense. Whether it's kind of controlled by real users, I think if you look at the raw transactions, I think it will mostly come from AI agents on some kind of time horizon. I don't know if that's in a year, 10 years, whatever. Our focus really is on the data side. Our view is that with the proliferation of AI agents, the amount of data being produced will grow exponentially. And the kind of second assumption is that a lot of this data will want to live on chain, as with all of the interactions that these AI agents are having. And we're really focused on tackling that and making sure there's a kind of scalable kind of storage and messaging layer and data layer for all of these AI agents to interact with each other, essentially.
I'm in the same boat. There's going to be a ton of data generated by these AI agents, whether we're talking about tuning data sets, we're talking about the actual models themselves, we're talking about what they're actually doing. You're going to need a way to store that in a decentralized fashion and hopefully do it in some way that has utility and isn't going to cost you an arm and a leg. So that's kind of where we're looking at it. But even beyond that, you want to be able to provide audit logs, track provenance, see who owns this stuff, see who's using it, see who is allowed to see what you're doing with these agents. And that's where just being able to do this in a good data storage, good citizen fashion is really important.
Just like I think everybody's explained, like we want more and more data to be used within these AI models, and so also, you know, storing the data, let's also like apply the models in much more like modern and efficient ways possible. So like with Lilypad especially, and all of us especially, in terms of Web 2 and Web 3 fashion, it's easier than ever to run these jobs, and so using conventional methods, it can get expensive, and so leveraging different networks that use open GPU networks is going to be just a lot more effective to add to that data set. So just the fact that it's easier to do than ever, I think, is like a main point, you know, especially with Web 3. It's not the easiest to use all the time, so something I think we can all be excited about.
Got it. And we don't have to follow the order anymore. I think we can now just answer ad hoc. But like Josh said, and everybody agreed, it seems like you all believe that there will be tons of AI agents and data that's related to these AI agents. Maybe it'd just be great to hear exactly how you can quantify that, or your estimations for that, either specifically or as a team. Some numbers to throw out there, maybe 6.5 billion human beings in the world, 200 million kind of active crypto users in the world. It doesn't have to be sort of number of agents, but how do you quantify a ton? And on what time horizon do you think this will happen?
So just kind of question for all of you out there. How many of you don't have gigabit internet? How many of you have internet that's like 100 megabits or slower, 50 megabits or slower? Yeah, like I'm one of those. I live remotely. I have Starlink, so I have data caps and certain amounts of data that can be pulled down. If you've looked at even just your base, like small parameter sets for these models, we're talking about oftentimes gigabytes of data. And at some point, since we're talking about decentralized, we have to get data to certain places, or we have to move compute. And whichever way you're doing it, like there's going to be data generated, and it's going to end up somewhere. And if I'm doing agents, like I may not want all my data shifted off somewhere to be computed on. And so that's just kind of the first one. Is we're talking about moving lots of data. And right now, a lot of us may have no data caps, and our ISP is perfectly happy to let us ship all this data around. But at some point, that may not be the case. So we first have just like, can I use it? And then as we talk about like, okay, we're going to have autonomous agents for optimizing gas or doing market predictions, or a little bit better, I'm going to have autonomous agents that are possibly going to make it so I don't have to sign every single transaction, and instead they cut the majority of them out and only tell me the bad ones. And okay, there, every single wallet user now possibly has an autonomous agent making their life easier. So pick your favorite wallet. That's how many people times 2 gigabytes for everyone trying to put a model on their system. There you go. There's some not very friendly numbers. And then
I guess just one tiny point is that you're saying kind of one wallet per user. I think every person, will have multiple identities. It could be per application. It could just be because they want to have multiple identities. I think if you just map out the kind of the 1-to-1 ratio between an identity and an agent, you can already start to do the maths that we're looking at. Okay, however many billion people on the planet. Yes, they're not all connected to the internet, but if we're kind of looking at this at the extremes, times by the number of identities, we're getting to the billions, right? Like this is the direction we're going in.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, I have a background in network security, so I'm used to the 1Password model where everything I interact with is a different account. So there you go. There's a lot of accounts that you're going to be dealing with and generating data for.
Yeah, so if you check out like the growth of open source projects like Auto GPT or Longchain, the growth metrics is just amazing. I actually have a chart to compare it with the GitHub stars of the project Bitcoin Core. Bitcoin is like pretty linear, and Auto GPT is just boom. So it doesn't mean like AutoGPT is better than it doesn't mean that. But I think it means that people do need, the autonomous agents. So sometimes because like we build Phala, this is our 5th year to build Phala, and it feels like sometimes while you're building a protocol, the vibe is very differential from Silicon Valley startups. It's not like built from on the ground. Sometimes we just make assumption that okay, we need verifiable compute. Let's start from there, and after we actually deliver it, the question is who are going to use it. So now we're kind of trying to find a balance between what exactly are people asking for a Web3 and autonomous agent, and what should be right, what is decent. So I really believe or share the vision that David just presented, like autonomous agent with multi economic work. I think I do believe in that, and if you check out the previous cases like DeFi summer, NFT summer, monetization is always been the key thing to boost everything. So I feel like adding up economic value into agents is something both Web 2 and Web 3 people need, and we want to just build from that perspective. Yeah.
Right. In the same respects that all of you guys discussed, we have these growing GPU networks, and so OpenAI has a couple 100,000 GPUs on their network, but networking in general that connects those GPUs to all of us, that's not going to change. Everybody's internet, we've discussed, it's 100 megs, and so as we push the adding of nodes everywhere, I think leveraging better protocols, software, to actually get it to work, I feel like is what we've got to focus on and what you guys really should help us with.
I think Sam is raising $2 trillion for GPUs, right? So that's the market size.
How much of that is networking? Probably a lot.
Yeah.
Which part of your product roadmap scares you guys the most right now? Whether it's business viability, technical feasibility, any things that are the most scary currently on your roadmap?
For AI or
no, for each of your projects roadmaps, things that that you have to overcome, either from a cost perspective or from a technical build perspective.
Okay, the hard question come from. Okay,
I'll take it if you want.
Okay, please.
Scale.
Yeah.
So transactions per second, we're talking about decentralized storage. You have to be able to do it quickly, handle enough reads, writes, do it with a low enough latency. But then beyond that, how do we actually get this data moved around? Better protocols for actually saying, if I do have to move this data here, here's the pieces that are really important to move here, rather than I'm just going to shove all that data down the pipe. And that's a pretty big one. We've kind of got into this habit in peer-to-peer networks that bandwidth and latency are free almost, and we're just going to shove everything to every node. And we're starting to, now that chains have grown really big and take up lots of disk space, we're sort of starting to shift on that a little bit and being like, hey, maybe that's not the correct approach. And especially as we start getting pushback from environmental groups saying hey, this is not sustainable what we're doing here. That's the other big one. How can we get data moved around efficiently?
So yeah, in the same idea, we're kind of in competition with a lot of Web 2 entities here. And so since we represent a more decentralized Web 3 approach, it's not always going to be the easier approach. And so I feel like the idea of us getting to being able to push everything where it needs to go in a logical way while being faster than the people that are doing Web 2 stuff, 10 milliseconds I think is a Web 2 standard. Whereas I think blockchain standards were at 2 seconds. And so there's just a lot of competition. And so being able, we've got to work together, push it.
Oh,
I don't mind going first. I think with all of these kind of conversations, to give a more kind of crypto specific answer, a lot of these networks require accruing a lot of hardware resources on the network, and doing that sustainably over a long period of time, we're talking, it can take 10 years to bootstrap a network. It took Ethereum however many years to hit some form of if you believe in deflation. But either way, it took one of the biggest networks in crypto many years to bootstrap. These newer networks are going to take 10 plus years to really be bootstrapped and sustainable. I think the question is, how do we really accrue enough hardware and resources to compete against the likes of AWS, et cetera, who are working at scales that are many, many orders of magnitude, and they have a lot of advantages for accruing hardware. They have access to a lot more hardware than these networks. I think that's something that I think not just us, but every single resource base. I mean, actually, every single network is deep in, depending on how deep you go. But definitely the resource ones, the Filecoins, the Arweaves, all of the the Heliums, etc. It's a big problem. How do you sustainably accrue hardware over a decade? It's not simple.
Yeah, for me, I think the most fear thing is if you check out how many Web3 projects is literally using Web3 technologies, you will be surprised. Like only very few of them, like the top one, like Uniswap, using Fleek, IPFS, Arweave to storage stuff, and using the graph protocol to indexing data. But it's just a few, and I would say 80%, 90% of the app builders, they are still using Web 2 application, and we can't blame them. It's not their fault. The problem is sometimes it's very hard to find the specific features you can deliver that Web 2 companies can't. And if you have that, I think you don't need to oversell or sell the value of decentralization, permissionless. They will just naturally use your stuff. So I guess that's the fear moment for us, and we are trying to solve that problem.
Yeah, the utility of whatever you're building in a decentralized fashion, because kind of to jump from the early innovators up to actual adoption requires them seeing some utility.
I think Arweave is a perfect case, right? So you can't do permanently storage on Amazon cloud. So if we have something like that, I believe Web3, Web 2 builders, they will just use us.
Oftentimes, I think in crypto, whether you're a founder, investor, you kind of have to skate where the puck is going, and think about the future and dream about the future. But what are your users saying today about your service? Do they anticipate the same scaling needs? Do they have the same sort of future visioning that you guys have, and how do you connect the two?
I think a lot of our users, we do a lot of stuff around storing data. I mean, it's a little bit of an abstraction, but it's directionally kind of literally all we do. But I think that the bridge is really just around performance, which is they want to have access to this Web3 resource. Again, something like permanent storage, you can't do. It's literally impossible to do outside of crypto because you need crypto economic incentives. It's a pretty unique case. So they want access to this thing which can only be provided by crypto, but they also want to have S3-like performance. So I think that's kind of the bridge. It's okay, these are the future technologies, these are the features and capabilities we want to enable now and scale over the next 10 years. But then how do we get people who are used to S3, et cetera, to actually onboard and use this technology and understand that it's powerful without making the applications 1,000 times slower. So one of our, not to show too hard, but one of our big focuses from day one is how do we make the performance as close to Web 2 performance as possible? So that has always been our number one focus.
I think there's probably many builders in the room today. What is something that you guys wish would be a new startup in the space, or any problems that you guys would like to see solved that you don't see anybody doing today?
I'm happy to. I feel like I just don't want to drown anyone out. One issue that in the Arweave world, which I'm not sure how this can be solved, to be honest, but one of the issues that the Arweave world has seen is around ISP takedowns, essentially, where they've kind of banned certain important domains in the world of Arweave. I won't say which, because of they accidentally served the phishing site, because it's a permissionless technology, right? Anyone can upload something. There are mechanisms in the network to essentially remove content that is illegal for whatever reasons. But it doesn't happen instantly. So sometimes ISPs will just block domains which are very important to the network, whether on the retrieval side. So I think decentralizing that part of the stack is nearly impossible. But I think on the data side, I don't think people appreciate how many takedown requests are submitted, and also false ones as well. So I think decentralizing that part of the stack would be really interesting. But yeah, as I said, I have no idea how you would do that, because I feel it's more of a legal problem than it is an infrastructure problem. But yeah.
Yeah, we are building a serverless function, a little bit like Amazon Lambda product, but provide verifiable proof for the execution results running with these Lambda functions. So the reason why this is we are all compute protocol, but the reason why we build in this way, unlike, for example, a cache network deliver a computer marketplace, is that we believe verifiable compute is the thing, for Web3 builders. So, oh shit. 5-0. Yeah. So, so just imagine the traffic of AI agent will be huge. Like there are millions users literally using it every day. And how can you do load balance if you are using your single server or running on a layer 2 for that application? It's very hard. That's the first feature we can deliver, like a load balance feature. But no matter how much traffic you got 30K kind of SGX workers running for Phala network globally, so we can do that job. The second thing is that like component confidentiality. It's not like 100% guaranteed secure, to add up a privacy enhanced layer on top of your program. But it's like you can choose which function you want to, provide privacy. For example, typical use case for today's topic is you can literally add up your GPT API into Phala network and request and program in a trustless way. So that single function is something you can barely do on any layer tools. So this is what we can offer. Yeah.
Something that hopefully I'm not trampling on any solutions that you guys have made or are working on, but one thing that we've mentioned when you're working with compute models, like these are very heavy files. I mean, some of them are 60 gigs for just a model. And so one thing that we would love to see is a public decentralized hosting mechanism for those really heavy files. And that would be like useful across the board. That's also a pretty intense startup that would happen, but we would love to use you at Lilypad.
Semi-related to that is just being able to kind of better move compute to an appropriate location. So being able to move it closer to the user, the edge, and try not to have that data being sent so far. Being able to make more availability of resources in someone's home too. Because there's always times that you may not need as much storage or may not need as much compute, and being able to easily use like someone's router to kind of run some of this stuff, just doing that in a really intelligent fashion would be pretty dang cool.
We'll do a fun consumer-facing question and then open it up for questions from the audience. But what is one thing that you can't wait for yourself that a personal agent or on-chain agent can do for you?
I already brought mine up. I hate having to sign every transaction. Have it so most of them I don't have to worry about. It figures out whether or not they're good, is able to determine if they're secure or not, and then ask me for the 10% that are really insecure. I was working with a project the other day, and it literally took me signing 5 transactions to be able to do something. And like, really, it's just do it.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm using 2 AI applications for now. The first one is a product that can help you just automatically summarize the meeting notes. It is a very simple function, but it's very useful. And the second application I'm using is HeyGen, to help you generate, AI videos, because we are working in cryptos. You need to make speech, workshop, you need to present your idea every day. And I'm not an English native speaker, so it's a pain in the ass for me, to do a very decent video pitch. And I'm using HeyGen. It can help me. I just need to import my script. And AI will generate the same face and voice based on how Marvin looks like, and present it to our audience, in batch. So that's awesome, and that's the iPhone moment for me in generative AI.
Yeah, kind of tying in a couple of things. Anyone who knows me personally knows I hate doing admin-related things. So anything that just requires kind of less than 3 brain cells, I think that's kind of when AI becomes useful. I think on the signing transaction side, there are just experiences that are just kind of painful. There are times when I want to buy, if I want to buy some shit coins on Solana, and I've only got my ETH USDC. This is a real story. Then I have to bridge it. I have to do a bunch of this shit. I have to put in the same address that I put in like every single time. A lot of this stuff can be automated, and also anything that could be dodgy in this process, AI can identify. So I think automating all of those kind of on-chain kind of experiences will just 10x, not just bridging and shitcoin trading, although it will. I think everything that uses crypto, AI agents will just make it will be a 10 or 100x improvement.
Yeah, sorry, just to add one comment from there. I totally agree. I just have a conversation with a project called Brain AI. They're building an AI agent, and they got some users. So I asked the founder, what's the most frequently mentioned intents that user input? What it is? User ask all of the time about which bridge should I use in this situation, right? It's so confusing, like you mentioned, so many assets on so many chains. They even can't Google on which bridge they should use. So that's what the thing they are using AI.
And then you find one, and then it's it's done. The domain's done. It's like, oh, well, that was a great tool. I get rest in peace.
Yeah.
Just same lines, like if you started using ChatGPT to help you code, you were just like, oh my gosh, this is like night and day. And so that translating into graphic design models. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to get an emblem to go from one image to be prompted into the next. So I just can't wait till that becomes just better. And so anybody who works on models, I thank you. Hats off to you.
Cool. We'll open it up for questions from the audience.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts today. Really thinking a lot about what the stack looks like in a decentralized cloud, 5 years down the road. Do you feel like there'll be a convergence of ideas to a certain idea about what the stack looks like? Or do you think we'll have 2 divergent opinions on it, kind of similar like we're debating modular versus monolithic in the blockchain space? Just curious what you're thinking.
I think, if you go too far decentralized, then all it takes is one domino to knock the rest down. And so we've seen teams go from really decentralized protocols to hybrid protocols using tons of different centralized technologies as well. You got to start somewhere. And so starting off with a little bit of centralization might be necessary for you. And so I definitely see it as being a very hybrid situation.
I think a lot of the designs I've noticed are kind of converging on each other. A few data points. We've just recently released AO, which is, I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but it's basically an actor model that allows message passing, things like that. I've actually seen, people don't realize it's not the first time that this has been, it's actually just a copy of the internet, which is, the internet is a bunch of independent actors that are just kind of sending messages to each other through routers and things like that. And Filecoin's also got IPC, which is interplanetary consensus, which is a different security model, but it's directionally the same. They're modeling it after the internet. It's the same thesis. And then there's also another team called something computer, I forgot. But I think everyone might be marketing it, wording it a little bit differently, but I think directionally, everyone is converging on the same design. It's kind of another thing this is slightly off topic, but it's the same concept. within crypto, something that's happened in the last, I think, 2 years is everything's become an oracle. They're not marketing it as an oracle, but you notice that bridges are oracles. Everything, all of the designs in crypto are kind of converging on the same thing. They're describing it in different ways, but technically they're roughly the same thing with a few tweaks. So my view is that everyone is going roughly in the right direction. It's just a matter of who perfects the design and obviously who gets the adoption.
It's something we've seen in computer science over the years, that kind of the best methodologies form kind of the backbone, and then people kind of experiment here and there to try to see if they can improve it. But yeah, it's going to converge to something that is pretty similar across everyone, and then just little tweaks here and there. And maybe we actually can call computer science an engineering discipline.
Yeah, there's a man called Nick Szabo presented a concept called the God protocol in 1997, and it's a perfect MPC protocol, with good performance, no zero trust party, etc. But when it comes into reality, it takes 20, 30 years, until the concept of the God protocol meet Satoshi's, Bitcoin, and then we can have, so many good, computation protocols for now. So my take is it's always like a trade-off. You can't have everything, and whoever can, just adopt with the market demand can win the final game. Yeah, it's a little bit like a Blu-ray, VS, Super DVD stuff. It doesn't make so much sense when we debating on which standard is the best. It's always about how the market buy you in. Yeah.
Hey everyone, João from Catena Labs. All right, sorry. I'm curious about your take on how much of the acceleration and adoption will come from software optimizations, primarily in open AI research land, 1-bit quantization, distillation, that kind of thing, versus hardware and just throwing more A100s, H100s into a decentralized network.
From my respect, it's optimization of said cards. So most people have way too many cards right now, and they're not being tagged enough, and so. Orchestration of your network, NGINX, that's your best friend.
To be honest, I don't worry about the issue. The reason is I do believe that blockchain is kind of block space driven. It's kind of like you build a perfect software. If people love it, they will contribute hardware, and the hardware do kind of adopt it with how the software works, right? So this is the concept of block space. It's a buzzword, but if you check how Bitcoin grows, right? You can mint 100 Bitcoins if you got just a PC 10 years ago, but now it's impossible. This is how the real world adopted with good-to-go software. So I think it's unique for Web3. You can barely see it in Web2. But so if we have some AI agent or AI use cases that can do attractive people, I do think there will be more computation power contributing. Yeah.
It's gonna be both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna see model optimization just in terms of being able to drive down costs, being able to use it in different places. You're going to see hardware optimization for kind of the same reasons, but different applications. So just like we saw with GPUs going and being advanced, and then older generations getting different use cases. We're going to see both happening, but for kind of different business reasons.
One thing I've seen is a lot of developers don't really require 60 gigs of VRAM all the time. They're not using the biggest models. And so one thing we're really pushing is consumers to bring their 4090s or their even 4070 Ti's are pretty baller. And so, it doesn't always take the biggest guns.
Mm-hmm.
Questions? Any more questions?
I think that covers the session, and I think everybody can thank our panel, and I think there's a coffee break next.
Thank you.